Hello there, biology guys and gals, and welcome to our video lesson here covering mitosis and cytokinesis, part 2 of our last video lesson, if you will. Remember, I broke this thing down into 2 separate parts here, so it wasn't just one gigantic chunk of information. All right. So if you're remembering what we talked about in part 1 here of lesson 4, it was all about the cell cycle in general. We could say we have 3 stages of the cell cycle: interphase, mitosis, and cytokinesis. Or we could say we have 5 stages where it's G1, S, G2, mitosis, cytokinesis. One way or the other, same difference. Just depends on how technical you're getting and what arena you are speaking of. Okay, so today in this little video lesson, we're going to look at mitosis and cytokinesis, the actual steps here of nuclear division and then the actual cell dividing process with cytokinesis. Okay, so without further ado, for 2 new cells to form, the genetic info must be arranged and separated into 2 identical groups. This process is known as mitosis. So right there, right at the beginning, we got our little general description here. There are 4 stages to mitosis, or nuclear division. The first one being called prophase. All right, prophase kind of starts with it does start with a P. So I like to think of prepping, pre-phase. All right, it's kind of the first one here. It's getting things ready. So what's happening is the DNA has started to coil up. It's gone from its long single-eyed strand and it started to coil up into a tight chromosome-like structure, and it becomes visible as a chromosome. The nuclear envelope, the cell membrane that surrounds the nucleus, starts to dissolve, and these special fibers called spindle fibers, these special proteins, start to form. Okay, and they form from the poles of the cell. All right, so like the opposite ends of a cell, these spindle fibers start to form and get closer to the center. Step 2 we call metaphase. All right, metaphase. And metaphase, meta usually means middle, okay? And it starts with an M as well. So what happens in metaphase? Well, the chromosomes, they align themselves on what we call the equator, or the midline or middle of a cell. The spindle fibers then attach to these structures we call centromeres, located at the center of the chromosome. Spindle fibers attach to the centromeres and start to brace themselves for pulling apart those chromosomes and pulling them to the separate areas of a cell. All right. Step 3 and 4 here. Step 3 is called anaphase. The centromeres actually split in half, and now we have the sister chromatids, because remember we got that homologous chromosome lining up right here. Okay, so my finger's a sister chromatid, centromere would be like my knuckle, okay? And all of a sudden we've got the spindle fibers attaching to the knuckles, they start to pull them, pop. We now have a chromosome and a chromosome again, okay? No longer a homologous chromosome composed of sister chromatids, but individual chromosomes, all right? And the spindle fibers begin to pull them over to the opposite poles in the cell. 4th and final stage here of mitosis is known as telophase or telophase. I'll let you say it either way here. At each end, what starts to happen is a new nuclear envelope begins to form. So a new cell membrane forms around each chromosome group to separate poles, and then the chromosomes begin to unwind and uncoil. That way they could be translated and transcribed into specific proteins and again, share their information with various parts of the new cells that are about ready to form. That's it for mitosis, though. Mitosis does not result in 2 new identical cells. Okay? Mitosis results in 2 new identical nuclei housed inside the same cell. The final step here is indeed cytokinesis. All right, cytoplasmic division, if you will, where we've got proteins that start to like act almost like a belt, like you're tightening a belt around your waist. These proteins start to like really pinch in at the center of the cell, and all of a sudden, pop. All right, we've got cell membrane that's formed on each side, and the cell completely splits in half by this it's almost like one of those little plastic zip strips that you kind of zip and tie something tightly with. That's kind of what's happening to the cell here as it splits during cytokinesis. The final product of cytokinesis is 2 new identical cells, and we call those cells daughter cells. All right, so we've got the parent cell that splits into 2 new daughter cells. Alrighty. Let's take a look at our diagram here, kind of get ourselves a visual of what's happening. And we'll be practicing in class, and you'll be looking at diagrams like this for the next week or so. Okay, so as we enter prophase, this little picture right here, you could see that we've got the chromosomes have gone from this spaghetti-like structure under the G2 of interphase stage, and they've started to actually, the DNA has actually coiled up and formed chromosomes, and those similar chromosomes have buddied up and bonded together at the centromere to become homologous chromosomes. Okay? Spindle fibers start to also appear in this phase. All right, now we've got ourselves pro-metaphase here and then metaphase down here. Don't worry about that, okay? We just call it metaphase in general, and we'll skip to this one where we've actually got the spindle fibers attaching to the centromeres of chromosomes as they align on the equator. Third step, anaphase. You can see how the spindle fibers start to pull these separate sister chromatids, now referred to as chromosomes again. Starts to pull them towards the poles right here, and then telophase and cytokinesis, where you can see the nuclear envelopes start to reform around these new groups of chromosomes, and the cell is also pinching off. Okay? That does it for our information here over mitosis and cytokinesis. We will be applying this info in class with our activity inside the gym, and also with a few of the other practice worksheets, quizzes, and there's one little thing we'll do online, and we'll also do lab battles. Lots of stuff here over mitosis and cytokinesis. You'll get to know these diagrams, these steps, this entire process like the back of your hand. All right? See you guys in class.